Thanks, Governor, for this end of the year interview. You know, you were sworn in just under a year ago with the goal of delivering freedom and opportunity to Hoosiers. Looking back on your first year in office, how would you summarize your biggest successes and the biggest lessons learned so far?
So I think when you're coming from where I was, the U.S. Senate, we took a great Hoosier team out there, and most of them came back and distinguished ourselves there as a freshman Senate office. And I get the question often, why didn't you do another 6 years? Well, if I'd wanted to run for governor, it would have been 2032. And there, you got to get 60 senators to agree to something that's going to be transformational. So we got good at picking practical ways to get stuff done. Here, state government gets a lot more down to the basics. You've got a legislature that's going to be heavily tilted in the direction of where I think freedom and opportunity and running government more efficiently would make sense. And then you find that a lot of the things you deal with are kind of thrown into your lap of having to get through. And property taxes, obviously, campaigning, and ate up a lot of the energy in the room. And we got through it. I mean, when you look at 2/3 of Hoosiers going to be paying less on their property taxes, it flattened out the trajectory. And when it exempts all homes by 31 to the tune of 2/3, that's an accomplishment. That's different. So you run into things that you've got to deal with. Now it's probably affordability, high utility rates, which I think we're already showing that we mean business on it. But I look at statistics. When you look at Indiana, with what we've been able to do in a short period of time, economic development is going to be an important thing that we've got to get right. And I want to do that in a broader way that emphasizes entrepreneurs, Main Street, critical businesses that we need to bring here, and do it in a way that is affordable. So when you look at GDP growth, ours is double that of Illinois, Ohio, triple that of Kentucky, and it's 6 times better than Michigan. Those are real results that I think come from taking a different point of view and just getting it done in the 11 months we've had to work with. So a lot of other issues we'll get to, but that's an example of how I think in a short period of time, you know, we've done a lot.
Speaking of, you said things come up. What was the toughest decision you made this year, and would you do anything differently?
So when it comes to, I think, you know, it was a surprise when you get Senate Bill 1 as property tax reform, and then they proceeded to completely gut it, and it had to be rebuilt in the House of Representatives. That's part of the way things work. I think that was something that probably then took us kind of away from doing more to reform healthcare, where in Indiana we got some of the highest costs in the country with some of the poorest outcomes. We were hit with a budget forecast that showed we were going to have $1 billion shortfall this year and next year. Well, thank goodness that was a forecast that I think was built on a faulty premise. We're already cash flowing much better than that. So there, I think, in what you do differently, it's in stuff that you maybe didn't have on your agenda that you got to get through. And I think, though, when you look at the totality of it, I'm proud of the team we put together, not to mention we had a sprawling state government that many other governors wanted to reorganize. And we did that into a system where we've got entrepreneurial secretaries that are now running 8 policy silos. That was talked about by many, and when we got here, there was very little ability to get great ideas up through the system from our own state employees, from the constituents we deal with. That'll probably be the most significant thing that we were able to do. And of course, we could do that all just by restructuring state government that had gotten sprawling and maybe a little fat and happy that we're now getting back into where we're actually getting more done, spending less doing it.
You brought up property taxes. and gutting the original, right, in the House. How do you respond to concerns about...
In the Senate.
In the Senate,
the House,
sorry.
we built it back
That's
to
right.
where we got reasonable property tax reform done.
So how do you respond to concerns about lost revenue for local services? And we heard that, the potential for new or higher local income taxes as a result.
I think that, when it comes to, and I've been very clear, the health of our local governments and public school districts have to be, always kept in mind when you go through a time like COVID where there was a lot of other stuff going on. How we navigated through it, I think most would think that we borrowed and spent way too much. You got to remember, $8.7 billion was given to Indiana, half split between the state, half between local governments and school districts. Probably got used to revenues that obviously weren't going to be there once you get through it, and that also delivered us massive inflation. 22, 23, and 24. Roughly around 25%. You average that over the 3 years, that's about 8% a year. We had not seen anything like that since the 80s. So it's amazing to me that so quickly we've been able to get back to close to normal. And of course, that's where the administration, I think, takes undue heat. I mean, it's almost back to normal. And the other side of the aisle, believes maybe in doubling down on more government in some of those policies. So I think that is, when you look at just 1 year, we've navigated through all of that and got a lot of things to show that I think put us in a much more solid place. And we'd kind of gotten off course, not necessarily due to things that the prior administration did, but the things it had to deal with. COVID and then, inflation that got completely out of control. And now affordability is the big issue. And for the other side to say that they're the party of that, I think you better be careful. Most people would know how we got into that predicament, but it still is a responsibility of whoever is in charge. That's why that focus on repopulating the IURC, taking the office of consumer counselor and putting someone there that when the first rate increase was requested, she recommended a 10% or so reduction.
Right.
And we're going to stay steady on holding entities accountable that need to be held accountable when it comes to kitchen table issues of basic cost of living.
Another issue that we recently navigated through as a state, redistricting.
Yep.
I want to ask you a couple questions. Explain why you believe that was necessary outside of the regular census cycle.
So I think here we're talking about something that the loudest voice against it would have been Democrats and moderates and liberals. We think by the time the vote occurred, a large majority of Republicans and conservatives were for it. When you do have issues like that descend from afar, I think it gives you a stark kind of picture of how half of the Senate was out of sync with most Hoosier Republicans, what was happening in other states, requests from the administration, and you get through it. To generalize on it when it doesn't have much to do with how you run state government, you can do that. And the people that were probably never for you when it comes to being entrepreneurial and running government more efficiently would do that. And I think it reflects an uneven playing field that the other side of the aisle has mastered over the years by doing it so effectively. What kind of impact that's going to have when generally you got to be careful. The party not in power always has a challenge, with midterm elections. I think it'll boil down to, though, if you're trying to win on the issue of affordability, I think you'll really lack credibility. Because here, when you're endorsing as state legislators the policies of your national cohorts, that's what gave us inflation. That's what grew government. That's what didn't take care of issues like open borders and its complications, or growing an economy based upon real growth, not a sugar high, borrowing and spending.
Let me ask you, in previous scrums, when you were asked what happens if the Senate would vote it down, you said the conversation is not over. Is this the end? Would you call a special session, or is it time to let the current map stand?
No, I think there, when the mechanics of trying to resurrect a bill, the consequences are what you do in response to half of the Senate, being of different opinions there. I mean, it passed with a wide majority in the House. That'll flesh itself out. I don't think that can be resurrected in this session, but I think it plays out in a broader way. But again, if you try to generalize on it, I think it's a mistake, because it's a national issue that put us out of sync with all other states, the administration, a large majority of Republicans and conservatives in this state. I think you let it rest there, and then you focus on the things we have under our control. Will the Senate, will the legislature be interested in reforming a broken healthcare system and other issues that are really important to Hoosiers? I'm going to be able to, I think, weigh in and make sure that the current issue of the affordability of electricity is held in check, in addition to making sure that we have enough generation and can take advantage of some of the things that the demand for more generation is asking for. So
some lawmakers had expressed to me during the process last week that they were told from Washington that if they didn't vote for it, some federal funding could be at question for. Are you concerned? That all
remains to be seen. I think that it probably doesn't endear you, but I think I've got a strong enough relationship there on the critical stuff. I think the big question would be for the senators that decided to distinguish themselves from the bulk of most Hoosier Republicans, including our congressional delegation, which was 100% for it. That would be where I'd be doing the soul searching. To me, when it comes to all the nuts and bolts of running state government, you look at those issues, you don't generalize upon this.
Do you see this as a schism in the party?
No, I don't. I think the media and folks that maybe aren't interested in the fact that, think about our own state, where I'm from. The reason there was balance historically between both sides of the aisle, where it did ebb and flow, is two congressional districts completely changed complexion over the last 15 to 20 years, the 8th and the 9th. They were blue dog Democrats that are now socially and fiscally more conservative than any of the legacy Republican areas. The reason that you've got 10 Democrats in the Senate and only 30 in the House is because Southern Indiana has changed to where it's now a bastion of conservatism and wanting less government that's more effective. Those are the big picture items that I think you need to look at. So to me, it still spells lots of opportunity on the issues of education, which is K through 12 is 50% of our budget. Post-secondary, another 15%. The fact that we were able to, on our own, ask our public universities to do what Purdue has done for 13 years. Freeze tuition, room and board, other stuff. And those are big accomplishments that when it comes down to what Hoosiers are looking for, they're going to look at that. They're not going to generalize upon, where I think many will want to stay focused. I think that's a mistake.
Let me ask you about data centers, because that's come up for Hoosiers. Large protests from some communities that are worried about the massive tax breaks that data centers get, the massive amounts of power and water they use, and maybe a limited local benefit. Is this an issue that lawmakers should look at, and how can the state help communities navigate this issue?
I think it's a bona fide issue. I think when it comes to data centers, obviously they're not going to work around areas that have lots of population. One just failed on the east side of Indy. Another one faltered up north, but I think they're going to be half of our 70 to 75 rural counties that would look at it as a blessing, and some have already come here. So I think data centers will go in places where it'll have an immediate impact on lowering property taxes, places where they wouldn't have the infrastructure to support a large company coming in with a lot of jobs due to the educational and healthcare infrastructure. And so I think they will have a place. But the people that are wanting them, hyperscalers, are going to have to make sure they pay for it and then put electrons back onto the grid. And that would be a perfect win-win for a lot of our rural counties that are looking for what their next act is going to be. And we've got a lot of them that are flat or losing population to where it'd be a good match. It's not going to work probably in a place where you got a lot of population.
Last question, as you move into your second year, what are your top priorities for Hoosiers?
So it'll be the things that are, I think, most important to Hoosiers. How do we get better value out of our state government that became sprawling over time? How do we reform healthcare, both through insurance companies and hospitals that currently deliver us a very expensive product based upon expensive remediation, doesn't focus on things like wellness and prevention, doesn't engage the employee, the Hoosier as a healthcare consumer. I'm going to be on initiatives that try to make Indiana healthier, and that, when you see how that relates to even our involvement in Medicaid, is a part that is really going to need to be managed well, or else it'll stress the budget. We're already being touted as a state to look at, and some of that occurred from momentum in the prior administration. Katie Jenner is a dynamo at leading the cabinet post in education. So we're going to build upon the things that are most important to Hoosiers. A lot of the other stuff are distractions, and my experience of knowing how to do it in a place as unruly of getting stuff done in the U.S. Senate, I'll draw upon that experience. The same team is here, and you'll have to deal with the people that were never really for an entrepreneurial conservative approach to government. That's going to win the day, and that's because most Hoosiers are in that camp, and you got to get through the distractions that come your way, get through them the best you can, focus on healthcare, education, affordability. And I'm going to know those three issues as well as anybody that's recently been in this post. And I got a great team. And despite what you saw in the wrestling match on redistricting, we'll work together to deliver results there.
Okay, Governor Mike Braun, thank you so much.
You're welcome.